This here's my forum that I'm using as a blog till all the other forum members show up. Treebard.proboards.com. We've had 44 guests this past 24 hours. That's pretty good. I suppose about 6 of them were humans, but the robots are welcome to snoop around as much as they want. Also, nobody ever says hi to me because they figure, well, my code's free. They don't have to cozy up to me. They could just borrow the code and not give it back and do what they want with it. It's public domain. There's no license. The license is called the unlicensed. So Treebard is a project that's meant to provide an example of GeneWare software that was made with genealogy in mind as a #1 goal, instead of trying to make something to get it to market as soon as possible and put out a version 1. Treebard software is meant to show the possibilities, show how it could be or should be when you go to record a family situation that's kind of complicated or something. In the other genealogy software or GeneWare, we find that you can't do it. Or if you want to make a dark background with light looking fonts like this, you can't do it. You can make dark backgrounds sometimes on some of these programs, but then you turn around, you can't change the font color. Oh my goodness, what are you supposed to do? Go into Windows controls and change your font color? It could take a long time to figure out how to do it. Then it's going to affect all your programs the same way. That's not how it should work. People who write a program should take responsibility for how it looks, okay, and never palm anything off on Windows. Hypothetically, in the future, there might be something called Treebard version 0 or Treebard version 1 or Treebard version 14. But right now we have Treebard GPS, which is not backwardsly compatible and never will be. It is purely a showcase of functionalities that you can use it to make a family tree, but you might be sorry because I'm going to change the code this week. I'm going to change the code next week. I'm going to change the code the week after that. And I'm not wasting my energy being backwards compatible with a bunch of junk, a bunch of junk code I was writing last year. No way. This is a showcase of functionalities. And when we get to a certain point, then it might behoove us, or it might not, to create a Treebard version 1 or version 0 first and then a version 1. That starts you out on the backwards compatibility track, where you got to kind of worry about people already used your code, so you got to keep them in mind if you change it and all that kind of nonsense. That's probably for someone else to do, because I'm just a neophyte, in case you can't tell. But I do everything in Python because it makes it fun and easy for me to not have to learn about how to, run Rust, for example, which you could do something great in Rust. Now, we were going to do a version 0 in Electron, because there you use HTML and CSS to make a standalone app. There's so much more you can do with HTML and CSS than what you can do with tkinter. Now, I've already done a lot with tkinter that you can't do with tkinter, because I wasn't satisfied with tkinter, so I made up some of my own widgets and styling procedure and stuff like that. Anyway, I decided against Electron because it's a one big old bloated. It's very popular and they love to use it, and it's in some ways it's pretty easy to use. I played around with it for quite some time, but for one thing, it's not getting easier to use, it's getting harder to use. That's the wrong way for a project to go. They're getting more and more paranoid about security, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not looking for something that needs security. I'm looking for a standalone program someone's going to use on their own computer. Treebard is never going to connect to the internet as long as it's called Treebard, because we don't need to make something that connects to the internet. We already have a browser. We already have a graphics program. We already have this, that, and the other thing. We got a word processing program. We don't need to include all these features in a genealogy software. Genealogy software does not need to connect to the internet. We're not trying to be fashionable here. We're trying to do genealogy. All right. So The other thing about Electron is it's built on top of Chromium, which is built on top of Google, Google the corporation. Uh, I don't, I don't want to say anything too weird, but let's just say that these big corporations, Facebook, etc., these big corporations exist for a supposed reason and a real reason. I don't remember the right words, but the supposed reason is, you know, to provide you with a little playground for yourself online or whatever. But the real reason is to collect information about you, sell to advertisers. That's why these people are filthy rich. Okay, that's the short version. Monoculture is the word. I know that if you have nothing growing in the ground except corn for miles around, what are you going to have? You're going to have corn's favorite pest. Uh, that's why Microsoft is so worried about security, because they're like monoculture. They're everywhere. You got Windows, 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 Windows everywhere. And so all the bad guys that want to write their bad software go in and sneak on your computer. And well, all those guys are going after Windows. So I'm interested in Linux. I'm interested in having Treebard work on Linux. I'm kind of interested in having Treebard work on what you call that other thing, Apple, or I don't know. Some guy came along and invented the stupid phone, I call it, and I think it was Steve Jobs. I'm not sure, but if so, well, I wish him well, and I hope he's not burning in hell for inventing this stupid phone. If he is, then he has my sympathy. He doesn't deserve it, but maybe he deserves it. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, so Electron, more monoculture. Everything's built on Chromium. Even Edge, Microsoft Edge, is nobody has anything to do with it because it's they still got a bad taste in their mouth from Internet Explorer, which is shoved down the throat by the monopolizer of monopolizers, good old Microsoft. Even Edge is built on Electron. That's how they actually became usable, I guess. So they say. I don't know anything about it. I just watch movies on YouTube. So monoculture, Atom, the editor, built on Electron. VS Code, the other editor that's very popular, built on Electron. Okay, and all kinds of other stuff. Lots of stuff. I don't have a list memorized, but lots of stuff is built on Electron. It's a big, huge, bloated mess. It works good, as far as I know. It works pretty good, but I guess it's a little slow, and it's not necessary. Okay, they got something else called Tauri, Tauri. They got a good one now, and I got interested in that for a few minutes, but then I looked into it, and you got to use Rust, and that's all right. I mean, no problem there. I got nothing against Treebard version 1 being written in Rust instead of Python. That's not a problem. Just that I'm probably not going to do it because I love Python because it's kind of easy, and I'm too old to get around and learn about compiled code and memory management. And I don't have the slightest idea what all that is, and I'm really not that interested in finding out. So I was happy to learn about Pynecone, which is a fairly new project. It's kind of just recently been going kind of more public and stuff. It's not even really what you call finished. That, for example, you can deploy to their website. You can actually put your web app on their website, which is very handy because, for example, my favorite host where I have my websites hosted, I don't think they host a Python website, so I would be disappointed about that. But in the near future, apparently you're going to be able to deploy your Python web apps on Pynecone, Pynecone.io, Pyne. Anyways, you can read. So what this is, it seems to me like this is what Tauri would be if it was written in Python instead of Rust. This is what Electron would be if it was, not Electron, not made on Chromium, etc. I don't know. I don't know much about it. I just found out about it. But it looks like a nice project, and I'm going to just play around with it a little bit. And I'm going to see if, you know, if this is a good way for maybe Treebard version 1 could be made like this, to where you're not using tkinter, you're using HTML and CSS. I don't think you write the HTML. I think Pynecone writes the HTML, I do believe, and then you write the CSS. So that's kind of a pain in a way, but it's also very powerful. You can make a very beautiful stuff, and the what we're talking about here is something that's inherently platform agnostic. Anyways, it works on Windows, it works on Linux, it works on Mac, it works equally all across, like a browser, you know, because it's a web app, basically. Web apps, that's what web apps do. So you'd have this junk up here, unlike Electron, where they don't show any browser pieces, even though it's actually working like a browser. But it'd be a web app. But you can always go like, you know, F10. Well, one way you can do is just make a new window, you know, and then you just drag this tab over to your new window someplace. Where is it? Down there? There it is. It might be a good idea because you don't have to basically write the same program over 3 times for the, you know, the Mac, Windows, and Linux. Oh, look, I have Node already. I went and looked to see if I had Node, and I do. So I'll be able to start this right away and go what is it, pip install Pynecone or something like that. I'm not sure. It's got a SQLite database built into it. See, that's why there's a Node involved, because it has a back end. Unlike these, you know, these programs where they're only for the front end. What good does that do me? I'm an ignorant savage. I don't know nothing about using Node.js, but apparently the Node, you know, procedures are built into Pynecone, so you don't have to know anything about it. It just has to be installed on your computer. So it must be easy to install because it's on my computer, and I guess I'm the one who installed it. So it must be easier. It wouldn't be on my computer, right? Of course, there's always those folks that repeat what they've heard 1,000 times. Oh, Python's too slow, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, guess what? Python just got faster. If you get Python 11 is way faster because they fixed some stuff. And I've been saying it for a while. Python is not going to get slower with age. It's going to get faster. So I got to get on the Python 11 bandwagon, that 3.11. I see no reason not to stay with Python at this point. I think it's just going to get better and better. And besides, what the heck? Gramps, which is nice. That's a nice big program. They're running on Python. They don't seem to be having any problems. I don't hear anybody saying, oh, Gramps is all bogged down. It doesn't move, blah, blah, blah. I don't hear any complaints about Gramps of that nature where it's running too slow because it's in Python. I am busy on Chapter 2 of Treebard GPS development. I'm working full time. I'm working 7 days a week whenever possible. Why? Because I like to. It's fun. It's my hobby, and that's the kind of guy I am. I don't expect to get a standing ovation for it, but it's just what I've been doing for some reason. For a while there, I took a break. Look, this is my GEDCOM thing I've been working on. For a while, I took a break, played my guitar, and read some books. Then I thought, oh, what the heck, I guess I'll write a little code today. Yeah, I got too close, fell back in. So, yeah, it seems like I'm back to full time, which is all right. If it doesn't kill me, if it does kill me, well, what the heck, you know? I hope that I get some certain stage of completeness on it first, before it kills me. But life is what it is, and since we don't know what that is, all we can really do is philosophize about it. I'm working on GEDCOM. It's coming along nicely. I'm happy about it. I'm much happier with the progress. I'm taking it pretty slow. I already went through trying all the things I tried last time I worked on GEDCOM that, you know, I gave up on that for a while. I've got some new insights about it. I'm trying to keep notes on that so I can make a good movie about it. This code is working good up to this point, but then I got to where I wanted to do the family tag, and, you know, I've had this little mental roadblock as far as the family tag on GEDCOM, where I've been saying it's redundant. Well, of course it is. It does have some redundancies to it. But what I was complaining about also is that I didn't feel that the family is an element of family history, which sounds very strange, I know. The thing about it is, I had a nice big families table showing the current person, all their partners, and all their children in one table. It wasn't easy, but I was able to glean all that information out of the events, birth events, marriage events, stuff like that. And I didn't feel that a family element was necessary. I felt that it was redundant and made things harder. When I started getting a little bit better at importing GEDCOM and started seeing some good results, it kind of seemed like I needed to be able to accommodate GEDCOM's family tag. And in order to do that, I added a family table to the database. And once I did that, I started wanting to use it. And it just went on like that. I started thinking about this. I started thinking about that. And before you know it, I'm thinking, well, maybe I was wrong. I know it's a miracle people ever do that anymore. People are only right these days. But yeah, I started thinking maybe I was wrong. I started taking this family element more seriously. And lo and behold, I now believe that having a family element in the database, of course, I already had one in the GUI, no problem. But well, it was a problem. It was hard, but having a family element in the database is going to make things much easier. And now my latest insight in that is that it was making things harder to mix kin and events. Kin and events are like two different things. Now, if you mix them, and then if you want to make a families table in your GUI, you got to go into your events, straighten out all the kin, and tease them apart again after you already made a big old stew. Oh, after you make a stew of peas and carrots and cooked it, the peas and carrots are mushed up a little bit. How are you going to get the peas and carrots back out again? What if you don't like peas? You just don't want to eat the carrots. All right. In other words, I'm thinking don't mix the relationships and the events. Keep them separate. And then when you want to say something about a family, you got the family in its own database table. You've got the events in their own database tables. They don't have to be linked to each other. And if they're not, it makes it a lot easier to query the database for relationships. So basically, I'm in the middle of rewriting the families table. At first, I have to rewrite the conclusions table because the code was all tied up together. Okay. And it was working fine. But I think it's going to be a lot better. So far, I've only been talking about the interruptions to the interruptions to the interruptions to the interruptions. So, what was I working on before I interrupted what I was working on and started these other projects? Well, let's rewrite this. Let's rewrite that. Let's rewrite this. Let's rewrite that. Let's start this. Let's start this new project. And by the way, if I didn't already mention, I'm an Aries with Capricorn, which means that my approach to life is to climb a ladder halfway up so I can jump off. That's the Aries with Capricorn rising. Oh, I remember. I'm working on the Places tab and the Sources tab. I haven't started on the Sources tab really, but I'm working on filling those up with functionality. Oh yeah, I also rewrote the whole module structure, completely done over. It's much better now. That's what I've been working on. I've done lots of big projects also, like redoing the module structure. Oh, I made a graphics. I added all kinds of functionalities to the graphics tab, so you can put borders on stuff, you can put captions on stuff, you can put text on top of your picture, on top of the margin. I won't allow you to put text on top of old pictures. I don't believe in it, but I will allow you to make a big margin and put text on top of your margin. Or the graphics program also has a feature where you can add a caption, which it goes into the database instead of on a picture, and then the caption could be displayed separately next to your picture in text. Okay, I'm going to make one where you can rotate the picture a little bit or as much as you want. I haven't done that yet, but I made a bunch of them. You can resize it, you can crop it. So I've got the graphics tab is wonderful. It's doing all kinds of stuff now. So I don't know what all I worked on, but I'm a good part of the way, maybe 2/3 of the way done with a places tab. So you can add a single place, add a nested place, etc., etc. There's all kinds of features that have already been started and completed in Chapter 2 of Treebard Development. But you know me, if I find something that's not good enough, I write it over. Because, you know, I've been writing all my life. And for most of my life, I just went with first draft because I figured, you know, I'm perfect, therefore my writing is perfect. But then what actually finally happened, I mean, obviously I've never published anything, or I wouldn't have had that, suffered under that illusion for so long. But not so many years ago, I decided to write a screenplay. And I studied on it, how it's done, and what kind of attitude you're supposed to have about it. And I just wanted to do it for fun, you know. I had a story in my mind. I wanted to get it out on a piece of paper. So here's what happened. When I was finished with the first draft, 0th draft really, it was like, you know, your basic 6-hour movie. And of course, that wasn't really good enough because people kind of want to watch a 2-hour movie for the most part. So it was quite an education to me to actually find the parts that were that you could chop them off without bleeding the story to death, and then go ahead and chop them up, and then what you got left, you perfect that. So rewriting was a new experience for me. I mean, everybody edits, right? You fix this sentence structure, you change that paragraph, blah, blah, blah. But for actual really rewriting, writing a screenplay really did it, because the screenplay is only supposed to be 120 little old pages. It's only supposed to take 2 hours to read that whole thing. Now, that was hard for me because, you know, me and words, we get along. We go far. We go around the bend and come on back for another go round. Treebard's going good. I'm very excited that we're making good progress on a GEDCOM import program, and it's very encouraging for me, and it has actually turned out to be important because it helped me to realize that it's easier if you do have a family element in your family tree software. Okay, like I said, you keep your events and your relationships separate. You don't have to glean your relationships out of your events, which, let me tell you, it was possible, but it was hard. In fact, there's a notice at the very top of my families.py module that says, do not rewrite this module for fun. It is not fun. Okay, well, I'm going to have to rewrite it anyway, and hopefully this time it's going to be funner because I'm going to get to delete a whole bunch of code. All right, well, nice talking to you. Thanks for showing up. Bye.